Alright, this is Chat UTD. I think Ruben Amorim's sacking is quite different to the other sackings since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. He's the closest I think you'll get to going out on your own terms, because when he said what he said on Sunday, he knew very well that his position had become untenable at that point because of what he'd said and that he was going to get sacked. So he has been sacked, but essentially he's sabotaged himself to get sacked. He's got his payout. And looking at the pictures of him on Monday, or Tuesday, when he looked absolutely happy as Larry with his sunglasses on, I don't get the impression, at least, that he's going to be one of those managers that's been scarred by his experience at United, like quite a number of the other ones have been, and that it's ruined their careers. I don't get that impression, because he's fired shots on the way out, and in a very clever and relatively diplomatic way, without saying something that's going to cost him his compensation package. He's essentially laid the blame at the door of the people that are responsible for the state of the club. I think it's clear to me that what Amorim's found at United isn't what he thought, and that in his own way he said that on the way out of the door. And the fallout of that has been that this week there's been an awful lot of scrutiny, probably for the first time in a long time at least, a lot of scrutiny on the people that are actually responsible, which is, I still think, the Glazers, but in the more recent past, obviously, Ineos. There's been an awful lot of scrutiny on Jim Ratcliffe, and particularly Jason Wilcox, and to some degree Omar Barada. There's going to be a protest on the 1st of February by the 1958 who've hibernated for a year and have come out of the woodwork, which I'll come to again in a minute. Mainstream media are talking about Ineos, talking about the decisions that they've made, raising questions, and all that's really positive, because it's better than it's been before. You know, at least there is some questions being asked now. At least it vindicates people like myself and a lot of other people who know that the problems at this club go far, far beyond managers. And it seemed like it was only the United fan base that was saying that into an echo chamber, and no one else was really listening. It seems like the wider mainstream are listening now. I'd go also further to say that even the suggestion of Solskjaer coming in, which I think the board are doing that to sort of, in their own misguided way, try and appease the fans and the media and take a bit of the heat off themselves. Even the response to that by the media has been interested in that it's been, I wouldn't say it's been ridiculed, but it's certainly not been well received by the mainstream media, and they're calling that into question as to the logic behind that. We can agree or disagree with them, but what I'm saying is at least they're questioning things now, and that's very different to how it's been before when a manager's been sacked. You could argue, I think I would argue, Amorim on merit should have been sacked. At a big club, proper club, he would have been sacked probably before he actually was. But the fact he's gone down in the way he's gone down has led to quite a lot of questions being asked of this board. So in some ways, the way they've done it to sort of flex their muscles and say, no, we're in charge, it's actually caused a lot of heat on them and a lot of scrutiny on them. Now, normally, I'd say this is great. They're a bunch of incompetent idiots, but they're making this decision, which people can agree with or not agree with, has led to them being scrutinised. And it's that old adage, you give a group of people enough rope to hang themselves, they're going to hang themselves. Give them enough rope, they're going to hang themselves. The problem we've got with our ownership structure is these people are untouchable. Jason Wilcox could end up being the fall guy. So we're getting closer to home in terms of responsibility. But as I say, just be a fall guy. He's dispensable. He's easily removed. But the people that we need to be removed, the Glazers and Ineos, they're untouchable. So they can continue to be incompetent. And normally, as I say, you give them enough rope, they're going to hang themselves, and that they would pay with consequences for their incompetence. The only people that are paying the consequences are the fans and the club. The club gets further behind and the fans suffer more. So, yeah, these decisions that Ineos are making prove that, for example, me and many other people are right about them. I don't really want to be right. I want my club back. I want some semblance of competence and direction and a club that represents something that I identify with. And we are further away from that than we've ever been before. And then making mistakes and those mistakes being highlighted doesn't get us any closer to them leaving, because there's no consequence to it. It's not a democracy. It's not like when the government are so bad that the public kick off and there's a general election. You don't get that. So in some ways, yeah, it vindicates that a lot of people are right about the club and the state of the club and where the finger of blame needs to be pointed. Fantastic. But actually, it's almost even more frustrating. Everyone agrees with us, but what are we going to do about it? Believe it or not, there has been a shift, because it's not that long ago, I'd say maybe 3-4 years ago, before the Glazers flirted with maybe selling the club, a lot of the mainstream media actually they defended the Glazers and didn't really see the angle that United fans were coming at it from, and just thought United fans are just moaning because they're not very good anymore. So there's definitely been a shift, because I definitely think that opinion's changed in the mainstream media, and the more voices that are on your side and the more voices that can see what's happening, the better. So there has been a shift. But that's taken 5, 6, 7 years, maybe longer if you think about it. It's probably from when Ferguson retired to now you are starting to see a shift in the opinion of people. But where ultimately does it get us? Does it remove them from our club? No. So how do you do that? It comes to the protest then. So the 58 have announced they're going to do a protest on the 1st of February. I can predict what it'll be. It'll be a march from the Tollgate pub with lots of colour, with lots of noise, with lots of people being able to express their feelings. As a starting point, that's fine, but that's all it's ever got to. For those that have watched the channel for some time, you'll know that I have this expression, it's loud complaint, it's not strategic protest for change. And I did a video, and I'll try and dig it out and put a link to it in the description. I did it might have even been more than a year ago, where I did some research into what actual strategic protest for change looks like versus loud complaint. And what the 58, even at that point, had done, it wasn't protest, it wasn't strategic protest for change, it's just loud complaint. They've been quiet for a year, and they'll have their reasons for that. And I know they were going to do a protest before the first game of the season, but they felt that they did a survey of the fans, and basically it wasn't going to land, so they didn't do it. But essentially, they've been in hibernation for a year, and then the board make yet another mistake, and they come out and they're going to do what they call a protest. Well, it just looks like when things go wrong, you're moaning about it. That's not protest. I've been doing this channel for 2 years. I don't need to wait to see how Ineos settle in. I don't need to wait to see how a new manager settles in, or a new formation settles in, or 3 new players settle in. I don't need to wait. I know with strong conviction that the Glazers and Ineos need to leave this club. I started a channel based on it. And that is unwavering in my opinion. I have absolutely no sway over anyone. But that's my opinion. And I don't need time or patience to tell me otherwise. So if you're a protest group, which they're supposed to be, well, yeah, they are supposed to be a protest group, but they're the best chance we've got, then it needs to be long-term, strategic, unwavering, unrelenting, militant protest for change that unites the vast majority of the fan base. And the 58 have been around for about coming on for 4 years now, and it's never got any further than a march from the Tollgate pub. And I know they've done some stuff regarding boycotting sponsorships and things like that, but they're trying their best. They're a group of people that are doing a lot more than other people would do, but we need more. It's not enough. And I've said this many times before, it needs someone to head it up with, or maybe more than one person to head it up with sway, with charisma, with kudos, and with pull. We haven't got that. If these ex-players want to help the club, don't offer to be the interim manager. Go and head this up. Because if you play a part in getting the Glazers to leave this club and getting Ineos to leave this club, you'll be immortalised in the club's history. But that's probably what it needs, is an ex-player and or an incredibly influential fan or group of fans that can bring everyone together. Because ultimately what needs to happen for the Glazers and Ineos to leave, and I think they would leave if this happened, the stadium needs to be empty for 5 games in a row. And that, there's more chance of me winning the lottery than that happening. That is never going to happen. Probably not going to happen anyway, but it's certainly not going to happen with the 1958. They're out of their depth. They haven't got the sway, they haven't got the charisma, they haven't got the pull, and they're not arranging strategic protests for change. Their tagline was that they would be, basically, that they would not rest until the owners of this club left. We're no further on, no closer to that happening, as far as I'm aware, to my knowledge, we are no closer to that happening 4 years later than when they first said it. And we had them with one foot out the fucking door a few seasons ago when they were going to leave. And if we believe Qatar were in for us, we had our foot on their neck, and the fans stopped protesting, stopped pushing for it, because we were pulled in by bullshit PR stories that suggested there was going to be a full takeover. And there was absolute outcry at the suggestion that it was going to be Sir Jim Ratcliffe taking 70% of the club and the Glazers leaving. There was outrage about that among some parts of the fan base. That wasn't good enough. Then there was certainly outrage about a 50-50 agreement. And then when there was talk of them coming in with a 26% stake in the club, it was like, no, everyone will kick off about that. And then it went quiet for a while, and then that's exactly what happened. They came in and they took 26%. And they are basically a protective shield for the Glazers, because all of the scrutiny at the moment is on them, and they've made the mistakes, fine. But the Glazers are sat there happy as pigs in shit, with no heat on them anymore, no closer to having to leave the club, with their 4 guys there taking all the bullets for them. That's what's happening. So the 58, it's almost like let's just imagine let's say bring it to an analogy linked to the team. It's almost like there's a non-league manager who supports United, has had a season ticket all his life, and he's a non-league manager, and he says, I'll take the job. I'll take the manager's job for the rest of the season. I just want to see my team play the way that I used to watch United play, and I've got good intent and I know what it looks like, and I want to try and make that happen. Some of you might argue that'd be a better person than Solskjaer. But his intent would be great. We'd all get behind what his idealistic vision, but he won't be able to do it. And that's the equivalent of the 58 trying to take on, basically, the responsibility of getting billionaire owners who are arrogant, who don't listen, and who are untouchable out of the club. They can't do it. So we're stuck, essentially. So it's great that people are now pointing the finger in the right direction. It's a step. But is it going to lead to anything that we want? Which basically, I want the Glazers and Ineos to leave this club immediately. And we're no further on with that. They can make the truth is they can make as many mistakes as they want. They can be as incompetent as they want. The Glazers have been incompetent for 21 years. That is not even a debate. But what happens as a result of it? The club suffers, the fans suffer, and we don't get rid of them. So it's soul destroying, to be honest with you. That I think now everybody knows the crack. everybody knows what's going on, but you're stuck within it. It's amateur hour. They're an absolute bunch of amateurs. And whilst that's the case, what are you expecting is going to happen for this club? What's going to get any better? How are we going to suddenly improve? Patience, is that what we're looking for? Okay, let the lunatics run the asylum for a bit longer. That's going to make a difference. This club is going absolutely nowhere. And the issue is, because we do still have some financial clout, because we are still Manchester United in some degree, it'll never get bad enough to force them out of the door in a more organic way. For example, like us being relegated, or us just consistently finishing mid-table and there's no money in it anymore. We're not bad enough for that to happen, and they will put just enough into it to make sure that doesn't happen. And they're just about competent enough to make sure that doesn't happen. So you're just stuck, as I've said before, between 6th and 11th, with the odd season here or there where you break that ceiling. That's the future of Manchester United. So within that future, I just want to see some good football. I want to see something that resembles a Manchester United team. I want to see, an identity that I can get behind. And people have questioned, well, what do modern footballers know about that? Nothing. But if we are to have an identity, if we are to have a way, then the people that are running the operation, they know what that looks like. They know what United stand for. Have they got the skill set to be able to have a framework of a culture that then bears that out on the pitch? No, they haven't. They don't. Ineos do not tick any boxes whatsoever regarding running this club. I think I made the point. Glazers out.